Tab. Have you ever heard of the Pythagorean theorem? Of course you have. It's that a squared plus b squared equals c squared formula from school. But what if I told you the man behind the name Pythagoras was so much more than just a mathematician? He was a philosopher, a mystic, a cult leader, and a product of one of the most dynamic periods in human history, the archaic Mediterranean. Today, we're not just solving for C. We're traveling back to the 6th century BCE to uncover the real Pythagoras. Picture this. The Mediterranean Sea isn't a tourist destination with cruise ships. It's a bustling superhighway of ideas, goods, and cultures. From the shores of Greece to the coast of Egypt, and all the way to Persia, this was a world in flux. Empires were rising and falling, trade routes were connecting distant peoples, and brand new ways of thinking were challenging age-old traditions. This is the world Pythagoras was born into, around 570 BCE on the Greek island of Samos, just off the coast of modern-day Turkey. Samos wasn't some quiet backwater island. It was a major commercial hub, a thriving center of art, architecture, and engineering. Think of it as the Silicon Valley of its time. Growing up here, a young Pythagoras would have been exposed to sailors with tales from Egypt, merchants carrying goods from Phoenicia, and thinkers debating the very nature of the universe. This environment was a melting pot, and it stirred up some big questions. What is the world made of? What are the rules that govern the cosmos? And what is our place in it all? These weren't just idle ponderings. The degrees of this era, known as the pre-Socratic philosophers, were the first to try and explain the world using reason and observation, rather than relying solely on myths about the gods. Thinkers like Thales, Anaximander, and Anaximander, all from the nearby city of Miletus, were Pythagoras' contemporaries. Thales proposed that everything was made of water. Anaximander imagined an indefinite, boundless substance called the apeiron. It was a philosophical revolution, and Pythagoras was right in the middle of it. But Pythagoras' journey didn't stop in Greece. Ancient sources, though sometimes a bit legendary, tell us he was an avid traveler. His most famous destination, Egypt. For centuries, Egypt had been a beacon of ancient wisdom, renowned for its monumental architecture, complex religious beliefs, and advanced knowledge of geometry and astronomy. Imagine Pythagoras walking among the Great Pyramids, studying with Egyptian priests, and being initiated into their sacred mysteries. They had a deep understanding of land surveying, which required practical geometry. It's as highly likely that the core ideas of the theorem we attribute to him were already known and used in places like Egypt and Babylon. Pythagoras didn't necessarily invent it from scratch, but he might have been the first to formally prove it and integrate it into a broader philosophical system. He may have also traveled to Babylon, the heart of the powerful Babylonian Empire. Babylonian astronomers were meticulous observers of the night sky, creating star charts and developing sophisticated mathematics to predict celestial events. Their number system was different. Their understanding of the cosmos was profound, and this exposure would have been mind-blowing for a Greek thinker. He was soaking it all in: Greek logic, Egyptian mysticism, and Babylonian mathematics. This fusion of ideas would become the hallmark of his own unique philosophy. After about 2 decades of traveling and learning, Pythagoras, now a man in his 40s, returned to Samos. But his hometown was no longer the free-thinking hub he had left. It was under the rule of a tyrant named Pythagoras, a lover of freedom and intellectual inquiry, found this oppressive atmosphere stifling. So he packed his bags once again and made a move that would change the course of his life and Western thought. He sailed west to Croton, a Greek colony in southern Italy. In Croton, Pythagoras wasn't just another teacher. He established a community, a brotherhood that was part religious sect, part philosophical school, and part political movement. This was Pythagoreanism. Admission wasn't easy. Initiates had to swear an oath of secrecy and live by a strict set of rules. We're talking a specific diet, many were vegetarians, codes of conduct, and a disciplined lifestyle dedicated to intellectual and spiritual purification. They believed in the transmigration of souls, or reincarnation. The goal of life was to purify the soul, so it could eventually escape the cycle of rebirth and reunite with the divine. And how did they achieve this purification? Through the study of mathematics and music. This is where it gets really fascinating. For Pythagoras and his followers, the universe wasn't just a random collection of stuff, it was an ordered, harmonious cosmos. And the key to understanding this divine order was number. They believed that all things are number. This wasn't just a metaphor, they meant it literally. They saw numerical ratios in the harmonies of music, in the movements of the planets, and in the shapes of geometry. Let's talk about music. The Pythagoreans discovered that the pleasing musical intervals, the octave, the fifth, the fourth, could be expressed as simple numerical ratios. For example, if you pluck a string and then pluck a string that's half the length, you get an octave. The ratio is 2 to 1. A perfect fifth corresponds to a ratio of 3 to 2. This was a monumental discovery. It meant that something as beautiful and ethereal as music was built on a foundation of pure numbers. It was proof that the universe had a hidden mathematical structure. If music was governed by numbers, why not everything else? This led them to cosmology. They envisioned a cosmos where the Earth and other celestial bodies revolved around a central fire, each moving in a perfect circle, creating a celestial harmony they called the music of the spheres, divis, that the distances between the planets corresponded to musical ratios, and their movements produced a divine symphony that we could unhear only because we've been accustomed to it since birth. It's a beautiful, poetic idea that combined astronomy, mathematics, and mysticism into one grand theory. And of course, there's the theorem. Within this worldview, geometry was the visual representation of numerical principles. The right-angled triangle wasn't just a shape, it was an expression of a fundamental relationship between squares built on its sides. The theorem A squared plus B squared equals C squared was a piece of divine, unchanging truth, a glimpse into the perfect, rational mind of the Creator. It was a sacred piece of knowledge. But the Pythagorean Brotherhood wasn't just an inward-looking community. They became deeply involved in the politics of Croton and other Italian city-states, and their influence grew. However, their secrecy, aristocratic leanings, and perceived power made them enemies. Eventually, a wave of anti-Pythagorean sentiments swept through the region, leading to the persecution of the Brotherhood and the destruction of their meeting places. Pythagoras himself had to flee, and the exact circumstances of his death are shrouded in mystery. Despite this violent end, the legacy of Pythagoras and his school is immense. Even though he wrote nothing down himself, his ideas were carried on by his followers and influenced generations of thinkers. Plato, one of the most important philosophers of all time, was profoundly influenced by Pythagoreanism, his theory of forms. The idea of a perfect, eternal realm of ideas that our physical world merely shadows owes a huge debt to the Pythagorean belief in a transcendent numerical order. The idea that mathematics is the language of the universe is a purely Pythagorean concept that has echoed through the centuries, influencing everyone from Copernicus and Kepler to Galileo and Einstein. So, the next time you see that simple formula from your math class, remember the man behind it. Pythagoras wasn't just a triangle guy who was a product of a vibrant, interconnected world, a visionary who blended science, religion, music, and politics. He saw numbers not just as tools for calculation, but as the sacred building blocks of reality. He taught that through reason and discipline, we could understand the harmony of the cosmos and purify our own souls. He was a true bridge between the mystical East and the rational West. And his quest to find the music of the spheres set the stage for the next 2,500 years of Western science and philosophy. Thanks for joining us on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of ancient thinkers, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration. See you in the next one.